Hey guys, what's going on? I'm back. I got 3 books I read. Got to review them. These will be the last of my pregame reviews. Am I on pace to do 50 books in a year? No, but I'm going to crank it up a little bit. This is the same shelf from the last video, but I'm building more, and I got some footage here. I think I'm going to try and, as I build shelves, get footage together to ultimately create a do-it-yourself video, because like I said, everyone can build these shelves. It feels good, it looks good, it is good, and I want to help people do that. With these 2 done, I'm going to have 6 total built, and I'm going to try and sell them in like batches. Or I was talking to my wife today, and she called them drops. So I'm going to sell them in drops of 6. They look nice as a collection kind of thing, so I'll have some nice images of that coming up after these 2 are done in the next couple days. The book selling business is going well. I'm selling a lot of stuff consistently. I'm able to keep sourcing stuff from my local Goodwills. I have quite a backlog. Once I have a new shelf, I'm going to have a big book haul video that's coming up. Like I said, it's pretty simple and anyone can do it. Feels good, looks good, is good. I'd like to share that with other people. I think I can. And I'm even doing it in a rudimentary kind of way. I learned from another YouTuber that there are these things called 90-degree clamps, which would make this job a lot easier. I forget the name of the YouTuber. I'll probably link it in the description. So there is room for improvement even for me. Lots of room for improvement. I mean, wearing gloves would be a good first step. I use these spacers that are measured so that the trim will line up perfectly with the shelves, and that they're both spaced evenly to accommodate both hardcovers barely, but they're mainly a trade paperback shelf size. And yeah, those will look great. So, the reviews. I got 3 books here. I'm going to show them from the ones I like the least to the ones I like the most. And to start it off is This Is How You Lose the Time War by Max Gladstone and Amal El-Motar. This one was given to me by a coworker. They didn't finish it. Their one thing they said was it was a bit too flowery for me. But I thought, well, people think Le Guin is flowery. I don't particularly like flowery language either, but maybe it'll be for me. It was unfortunately not for me. It's told with these letters between these 2 time travelers who are working for opposite factions. One's like a nature and one's like a technology. It got to a point where these letters divulge into love letters. And I was reading one and I was like, wait, when did these 2 people fall in love? I missed the connection where they were supposed to fall in love. So I was reading these love letters to one another and it was not hitting me at all. I was just completely melodramatic and flat. So I figured there's no recovering from that. If you're reading a book and the author wants you to believe characters are in love, but you don't believe it, you're not going to have a good time. I never DNF books, but I did for this one, and it feels good. It feels kind of like a self-care thing. You know, I would just suffer through it. I mean, hell, I got through Snow Crash. I'll get through this one. It's not that big. But it felt good to DNF, and I should do it more. There's so many books out there. Why would I suffer through this one where I'm just going to be cringing and just kind of like, rolling my eyes? And so anyways, DNF. For people that like kind of like a poetry book, is very flowery. There were some cool snapshots of science fiction worlds, but just snapshots. A few of them that you could sink your teeth into, but most of them were just this brief glimpse into this science fiction scene, and then you were gone. And I don't know, didn't do it for me, but nice looking book. My wife really likes that cover. It is cool. It's the red and the blue factions. Once you read the book, you understand a little bit more about it. All right, next book, A Man Called Ove by Bachman. I'll say right from the start, this book did something that no other book ever has. This book made me cry. And I don't want to spoil anything to say exactly how it achieved that. It's about this old curmudgeony man who puts up signs saying you can't park here. Everyone knows who this old curmudgeony man is. Everyone has seen him. Everyone has interacted with him. They're just nasty, and you have the sense that they just hate the world. They grew old and they just want people to suffer or something. But of course, if you ever read Bachman, it is very heartwarming and it all comes together in this nice piece of humanity. I don't think it's a spoiler to say that this old man, you find out soon in the story that his wife died. Ultimately, this man, his love language, how he expresses himself, how he expresses his love, is through action. He's a big car guy. He's a big DIY guy. He fixes people's houses. He helps people with their cars. And that's me. That's me too. When my loved ones were on hard times, I went and I painted their bedrooms. I went and I painted their bathroom. I did some electrical work in a kitchen. Like that's how I kind of cope with these things. That's how I help people. But what do you do when you can't paint a room over cancer? You can't do anything to help the fact that your wife is dead. And that's how this guy got the way he is. So it should be a big warning sign for me. If that's your love language, you got to have to find another out, because there's so many issues in this world that can't be fixed. You just have to bear through them, even though it's hard. And it hit me right to my core. It was like so targeted towards me. And it wasn't the very end of it. But once you finally learn, that's who this guy is, and that's who I am, and that's who ultimately everyone is a little bit, of course, because how could this guy have ever written this book and written this character if he didn't understand the character? Everyone is Ove a little bit. I think me more than others, which is why it hit me so hard. And like I said, I had never cried reading a book before in my life, and I was sick at the time, and I was so congested, and it was a disaster. And my wife was in the other room, and she looked over, and it just must have been so confusing for her. Or it's like, well, what's going on with you? Are you okay? And I was just bubbling. So for a book to do that, it has to be good. But you're probably asking yourself, well, that's not the best book you read. It kind of was, but I wanted to order it like this because I only read this next book because of this book. Because in this book, the guy's wife is a big bibliophile, as I am, and he says her favorite book, or one she read over and over, was The Old Man and the Sea. And I think she named her cat after a character. So, I thought, well, since this book hit so close to me, and this guy's wife is a lot like my wife, let's see what The Old Man and the Sea is about. Which wasn't a big investment. It's just a very small book here. And I don't see the connection between Ove's wife and this book. Because this book is straight, hair on the chest, machoism, man versus nature. This is man versus nature. That's the foundation of man versus nature. Not that there haven't been man versus nature books before this, Beowulf, I'm sure, was more foundational than this, but I'm saying that is all this book is man versus nature. And I enjoyed it because I like that kind of primal recollection. You forget that you're just an animal as a human. And you forget that at one time it was man versus nature. That battle is kind of course the battle is still going on, but you don't see it every day. You buy your meat at the supermarket. The most wild you see is like a deer or a fox maybe. But this old guy goes out on the sea in pursuit of a big fish. And, I'm sure there's been classes taught on this book, and whole seminars, whole semesters, whole dissertations, and I'm just a random dude who picked it up on a whim. So what am I going to say that no one else has? But I did enjoy it, and I like Hemingway's style. It is very matter-of-fact, which is the complete opposite of How You Lose a Time War. These two books right here. This was flowery. This was so much frill. This is no frills. Guy on a boat who wants to kill a fish, gets bloody, doesn't eat for 3 days, gets his hands all like burnt up by the rope. The top of his head is sunburnt. He loses an oar. He loses an anchor. I won't spoil it, but it's rough. This guy has it rough. And part of me likes that it puts some hair on your chest. And like when I was building those shelves, I was an idiot. I didn't wear gloves, and I got some splinters. And I'm taking them out this morning, and it's like, God, this hurts, because you're just like picking at it over and over, and you got to like kind of carve out the skin to get the splinter out. You guys know what I'm talking about. But you think back to this book, and you're like, well, this guy suffered through so much more. Here I am complaining about a few splinters in my hand. Like, come on, man. Buck up. Which I know is like, maybe consider toxic masculinity or something. I mean, Hemingway is the embodiment of toxic masculinity from what I hear. But there's a purpose for it. There's a place for it. It does help you cope with a lot of the things that you need in this world. So it was a burst of that for me, which I appreciated. In a very short, well-contained package. And there's a lot of history in that book, which I always like. Oh, I didn't put them up on the shelf here. There we go. There's a lot of history in the book, which is always a plus. Kind of like some artificial plus where so many people tell you the book is good and therefore it's going to be better in your mind. But this one, I think, delivered. And that was cool. So like I said, those are going to be the last of my pregame reviews. I think I got 9 of them. Maybe 7. I don't know. It'll be in the title. And I started this, like a month ago? So I should be reading more than that. And I will. I'm going to crank these up. I'm going to finish those shelves. I got a book haul video coming. It's going to be huge. So, hope to see you then. Thanks for watching, guys.